Let's go.
Welcome to the Trusted Leader Show. I'm your host, David Horsager. Join me as I sit down with influential leaders from around the world to discuss why leaders and organizations fail, top tactics for high performance, and how you can become an even more trusted leader.
Welcome to the Trusted Leader Show. I'm Kent Svensson, producer of the Trusted Leader Show. And for this week's episode, we feature an exclusive clip from the 2022 Trusted Leader Summit, where David took to the stage to talk about the 3 questions that drive strategic clarity. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
There are many questions we ask in strategic planning. And while the why is a great question, and I agree with Cynic that if you don't have a why, you might not last 10 days on a project, and the why is critical in times of change. Most leaders in change, they lose trust, not because of change. People are used to change since their diapers were. But the problem is people don't share the why enough in change. So why is a good question. Collins and others who talk about the who, that's a good question. Get the right who's on the bus, no doubt about it. But often we see still buses full of really fun who's singing kumbaya about their why going right off the cliff. Because they're not asking these 3 questions. I believe these are the 3 most overlooked, underused questions in strategic work. These are the questions that actually give hope. These are the questions that actually take an idea to an action. These 3 questions. They are the most important questions. You have to get good at them if you want clarity. This doesn't, by the way, come against a acquaintance, colleague, friend in business who just wrote a really good book called Who Not How that argues you should just get the right who's around you and the who's will kind of solve a lot of your problems. It's a really good, inspiring book. However, there are many things you can't leverage. Many of us leaders want to leverage everything. Everybody else do everything. It turns out, if you leverage everything in your health, you can hire a great fitness trainer and not get healthy. You can hire someone to save your marriage, but it turns out you have to do some work. So the 3 most important underused questions that actually drive strategic clarity, many of you know it. Number 1 is, number 2 is way more important, and the most important question of all is, ladies and gentlemen, you must ask how at least 3 times. It might take 7. I'm much faster explaining it when it's recorded and cut, so this is what they made me do. I started asking people when I knew that I needed to lose weight. I said, how do you stay fit on the road, traveling like we do? You know what people told me? Eat less, exercise. That was not clear enough for me. I said, but how? How? One idea. A doctor came up to me after an event, 80 years old, fit as could be. He said, David, here's an idea that actually I think has a final how. Most men, if they just wouldn't drink their calories, they could eat exactly the same and they'd lose 30 to 50 pounds. Now, at least that was a clear how, because I can look at something. Is there calories in that? No, I can drink it, right? So for 6 months, I didn't drink a calorie. But the point isn't anything about calories, and it certainly isn't healthcare advice. The point is, can I look at it? Because I would get on a plane and I would have a Coke. 2 Cokes was a meal. I didn't know what I was doing. Now if you sit next to me on the plane, you'll notice I order something without calories. But it's got to be that clear. You've got to ask how until you're going to do something differently today or tomorrow. How? What's this mean for you? Don't tell me you're going to call people. Don't tell me you're going to set meetings. Until you ask how, until you're going to do something specific today or tomorrow, I do not trust you. How? You're going to do that. Okay, then how are you going to do that? Okay, then how are you going to do that? Until you're going to do something today or tomorrow. And you can always ask how until you can do something today or tomorrow. Okay, so the how plan is critical. This is a critical part of our work under the clarity pillar. Many of you know the 2 sides of clarity. We have strategic clarity and how we communicate, that communication clarity. So this comes under strategic. It's after MVP, mission, vision, values, priorities. But is when we take something, we need to ask how, and most people, this is way too much work. You think it's easy. I've had senior executives from a massive company that you all know say it was the 4th 90-minute meeting where we finally said, oh, I finally got the how. A final how is always something you can actually act on today or tomorrow. Doesn't matter how big your company, doesn't matter how complex your government, you can always do it. But you have to, how are you going to do that? Then how are you going to do that? Then how are you going to do that? It was that thing with the weight loss thing. It was, okay, I'm going to eat less. Okay, I'm going to bring in less calories. Okay, until I can act on it today or tomorrow, it doesn't matter. That final how gives hope, and you have to do something you will do. If you said to me, David, you can never have ice cream again, it's not going to happen. So you have to pick something you will do, right? How, until you can do it. I can still remember one of the biggest healthcare organizations in North America. We were at a private hospital systems. We were at a big private location meeting. I was up on a little stage like this. There's 100 senior executives and the senior leaders here. We'd done all this trust work, and I said, it happened to be a gentleman who was CEO. I said, what do you actually want to do? We've talked about all this stuff. What do you and your team, what do we want to actually start to solve? And he stood up in front of everybody and said, we need a better culture. We're dying. I said, great. How are you going to start to have a better culture? And this Harvard graduate, CEO, sat down, talked to his team, and he stood up and he said, well, we like that clarity pillar. We're going to start with that. We're going to be more clear. Do I trust him? Not for a second. I honor him. I said, great. How are you going to be more clear? He sat down. He talked to his team. When he was ready, he stood up and said, we're going to communicate more. I said, great. How are you going to communicate more? He sat down, talked to his team. When he was ready, he stood up and said, we're going to hold each other accountable. After I threw up in my mouth, I said, how? You know how many companies I go into that say they have accountability as a value and they don't know what it means? Oh, we got accountability. I said, great. How do you hold people accountable here? Accountability stuff. They don't know. That day we asked how 7 more times. That leader got to something they could do today or tomorrow. 9 years later, they wrote us a letter that said, this organization you would all know. They said that was the tipping point of their organization because all 100 of those senior leaders got to a final how they could act on today or tomorrow. And we think we got it, but it's hard. A final how always has a who, a when, and a where. How. So we do these at least every 90 days. In our company, you can do it as an individual, you can do it as an organization. But how plans drive clarity that gives hope because the final how can actually happen. So when I do it, whether it's me individually or whether it's a team, the final how always has a who, when, or a where. The who, you've been lied to. Co-leadership is terrible. What does the data say? If you have more than one person on the final task, you have 50% less chance of ever getting done. You can't have Bill and Jane. A person, if you say, well, David, I know these look at this successful company with co-CEOs. We look at that, you'll find if they're successful and healthy, they have 2 different roles even though they call themselves that. I mean, this is in life, isn't it? Having more than one person. I'm not pushing, let's just take 4 or away from traditional marriage. But whatever in marriage, if you don't have some role separation, you know how much stress that is? You mean let's say you both work. You both get home every night, you got a Farkle, rock, paper, scissors for, okay, who's going to do dishes tonight? Who's going to mow the lawn tonight? Who's going to do this tonight? Every time you got to do that. You know how peaceful it is? Oh, I know they got the lawn. Oh, I know they got the meal. Doesn't mean don't help each other, but stress goes down when clarity goes up. And a final how always has a who. And by the way, it takes away stress from that person. Because if they don't know if they totally got it or someone else, doesn't mean they don't need help. Doesn't mean we still have the connection pillar. But you've got to drive the final how to one. It gives them peace. They know what they own. How. It might take 7, might take 10, but we have to how it until we can act on it today or tomorrow. How. So first of all, we've got to get this right. We've got to get good at this if we're going to get the clarity pillar. So at your table, Think of, just for now, just for 90 seconds, I want you to see how fast, if you haven't done this, I want you to see how fast you can start to solve your biggest issue, one of your biggest issues. You ask how until you can do something, not everything, just something. Okay? So we don't get to everything, but we try to go backwards to a keystone habit. Because somebody will say, well, I want to start to read more. Well, great, you've had that opportunity for years. How are you going to do that? Well, I'm just going to read more. No, you're not. How are you going to do that? Well, I suppose I should get a book. Yeah, that's one. Okay, how are you going to get a book? Oh, I'm going to get on Amazon. Do I trust you yet? No. How? Until you tell me at the next break, I'm going to get on, I'm going to punch this on my Amazon account or whatever. Right? Then you get to a final how. So you say, I'm going to get up earlier. Good idea. You've been able to do that for a while. How are you going to do it? Just get up early. No. Set an alarm. Okay, you've done that. Okay, how are you going to? Maybe it's all the way back to I need to go to bed earlier. And then maybe I have to put something so I start getting ready for bed earlier. But I have to go backwards till I can actually do something. How? Until you will do something today or tomorrow. Are we clear? This is really critical, and this is a differentiator for all the people we've seen triple sales, lose weight, get this clarity pillar to actually take an idea to an action. So let's do it. Take one thing right now on your journal, put it down. What do you want to change? Try to be as specific as possible. What's something you'd like to change, let's say in 90 days? It can be at work, it can be at home. I'd like to gain 10 pounds. I'd like to have a better relationship with my kids. But if you do that, let's say you want a better relationship with your kid. Try to think, well, where am I right now? Just a gut check. You don't need to do an assessment. I feel like it's about a 6 out of 10. I'd like it to feel like a 9 out of 10 in 90 days. Then you, how? Oh, I'm just going to start to try. I'm going to how, until you tell me, oh, I'm going to write a note to them every day for the next 90 days by breakfast. You got something. How? And this can change personal relationship, it can change sales, it can change your team. But the how, are we clear on the how? It has to be something you can act on today or tomorrow. And you have to have something you can do. So what is the thing you'd like to do? Put one thing down. Maybe you thought about it today. Maybe it was, I want to increase this pillar. Well, what do I want to do? Or maybe I want to, whatever it is. Put something down at the top that you want personally. Okay, this is just for you. Thank you. We're just going to stay silent for about 90 seconds on this one. What are you going to do? Okay, what's the thing you want to change? Everybody wants to change something. Tomorrow we're going to talk just briefly about habit change and what it really takes, or some of the things it really takes. Most people miss, but this is part of it, getting this clear. Now, okay, you got that thing. Now you're going to how it. Put a how. Okay, what's that first how? Okay, it's simple, obviously, on this one, and I don't judge anybody. The calorie thing, we're all working on different things in our lives, are we not? I'm working on other things today than I was then. We're all working on different things, I hope. But on that thing, I said, okay, how? I got to take in less calories. How am I going to do that? Okay, how am I going to do that? How am I going to, until I can do it today or tomorrow. Be ready. We're going to share this in a moment if you're willing. If it's private, no problem. You don't have to. But try to get this to a how you could do tomorrow morning. And interesting thing in a football over here, one of the university football teams that said we helped them go from 3-7 to 7-3 in a year was a team that took this process, and every week, every position, the position group, and the team would, whatever happened last Sunday or Saturday in their case, and they would like, okay, we want this, we want to win next week. How I'm going to do it? How's my position group? How, until we can actually do something today or tomorrow. Okay? Let me give you silence for a minute, 60 seconds, and see if you can get to a final how that you can act on today or tomorrow.
Most training and development initiatives don't last or even solve the root problem hindering an organization. That's where TrustEdge certification comes in. TrustEdge certified partners are equipped with a suite of tools to identify, benchmark, and close gaps in trust for good. Because when you solve the real issue, you get measurable results and a culture where people actually want to make an impact. So whether you're a trainer, a manager, an HR executive, or a leader in learning and development, check out trustedgeplatform.com and see how you can start solving the root issue and get lasting results in your organization. And now back to the show.
So that's the point. So when you do this on teams, some of you know the full 90-day quick plan process, which starts with 3 other questions, which is why. You got to have a strong enough why you don't last on a project. So why am I actually doing this? The next question is, Where am I right now on this? So here's where I am. Where do I want to be in 90 days? Okay, this is where I'm going. And then, of course, it goes to how. And the point of this is it might take 10 hows, it might take however many. It's not a final how until you can do it, act on it today or tomorrow. So when you do this on teams, you're getting to something somebody can do starting tomorrow, then they have hope. Now, sometimes, and we're not going to take and do this together in this session, but on teams, sometimes you'll get to things that you think someone else should do. Oh, I found a final how for the CEO. I found a final how for the superintendent. I found a final how for them. Can't ever do it. It always has to be something you can do. So let's take something. Let's say you're doing it as a team, and you came to a final how. You came to something that you really think would help the company, that would help the organization, but you don't have overall control. So how do you get buy-in on an idea? I'm just going to jump to this in my head really quick here. Hope it's what I'm supposed to say. I'm going to give you five words that actually create buy-in and 2 questions. If you can't do it, but the CEO, the manager, the senior leader, you need them to do this thing. What do people actually, what helps you get buy-in? Number one, empathy. I know you're busy. I know you got a million ideas. I know you got all these people coming to you. I know you got people pulling on you. I know you got all this. But I just wonder, like coming to them and putting your feet in their shoes. Because if you want to get critiqued for a living, my wise older brother, economist, is known for saying, we're in a more critical world than we've ever been in without the ability to critically think. You want to be critiqued for a living? You want that to be your role in life? Give a talk, right? Something's wrong. Oh, he's from Minnesota. Oh, he should have worn a tie. I mean, something. You get critiqued if you speak, write a book, or lead anything. You lead anything, you will get critiqued for a living. So do what's right anyway. You have to. That's your call. If you want to lead, and I talked about some of you school boards, right? If you don't want to get critiqued for a living, don't be on a school board. That's your role in life. You have to do what's right anyway. So you're going to get critiqued, but number one, start with empathy. Number 2 is you do need to have some credibility for this. Like, here's a way forward. I may not know everything, but here's a pathway forward. Here's some credibility. And I want to share another thing, but if you have, this is the balance of humility and credibility in work. Is it's great to have humility, but they have to trust that you know something about this. Another part of getting buy-in from others when you don't have control is conviction. Some people have said, "Oh, David, about that trust work, when we have you show conviction, when you do your own research or write your own stuff or you're in it or you see it, I have deep conviction about it. I don't have deep conviction about Horsager, David, I can't spell my last name, I couldn't till 8th grade, whatever, but trust, I have conviction." People will buy in if you have conviction that's genuine. Next is anticipation. They buy in when they anticipate something changing. This is why on the way, on certain things, you got a picture before and after of anything. Oh, I could be like that? I might buy in. Oh, you mean you're my leader and you could lead me to this better place with a culture where people actually could perform at their best? I want to join in on that because I'm anticipating a different culture, a non-poisonous one, a different place. So I might buy in on that. So empathy, conviction, anticipation, credibility, and of course, the final one is authenticity. If we're not authentic, everybody can tell miles away. In fact, the top question senior hires were asking in one study over the last several years is it real? They've been lied to generation, right? Is that real? Is that virtual? Is it not? Is it this? Is that? What? Is it really real? Is that picture on Instagram real or not? Is it real? They will buy in if they feel like, in a way, if you are genuine and real. So those are five ways to get buy-in. 2 questions. The first question is why. If I go to a senior leader and your final how and your how plan was, we need them to think about this idea differently. I'm going to give, we talk to our team about having 5 whys. Why is the question, but you might have 5 of them. Hey, I know you got a lot of priorities to consider. I know you got all this stuff, but here's 5 whys. Maybe it's 3 whys, but here's the why behind why I think this would help us. And if you have a narcissistic leader, one of your whys has to be something that would make them look really good. Here's why. And by the way, people would actually maybe follow you, or they'd like you, or this would help you, or you might get that promotion, or you might, whatever, right? And the other question is, if you can, with 5 whys, bring a how or 2 as possibilities that you've thought of, your chances go up dramatically with the senior leader. Here's an idea. I don't know if this would work, but here's why. You use those 5 others with empathy and all this, but then he said, here's a couple ideas I thought of for this that would really help us. I think is we could either do maybe this process for it or this. Your chances go up on getting buy-in from senior leaders. Does that make sense?
That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to check out trustedleadershow.com for all the show notes and links and information from anything mentioned in today's episode. And we are so excited to announce that the Trusted Leader Summit is happening again next year, November 7th through the 9th, 2023 at the JW Marriott Mall of America here in Minnesota. If you want to find out more information or even register, head to trustedleadersummit.com for all the information. And if you haven't already, we would greatly appreciate a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. This is a great way to help support the show and help others to discover it. But in the meantime, that's it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, stay trusted.